So the other day I was rizzing up this total baddie, right? I told her I was watching Daredevil Born Again, and naturally she asked me if it was any good. Little did she know, that question was not so easily answered. But let me put it to you like this. Daredevil Born Again has ups and downs, okay? It has so many ups and downs it could double as a hentai girl's tits. The premise is that after a traumatic event, Matt Murdock decides to hang up the billy club in devil costume and put an end to his crime-fighting days as the man without fear. Meanwhile, Wilson Fisk also seemingly wishes to put his kingpin days behind him and pursue a career in politics. So yeah, in other words, in case it wasn't clear, he wants to stop being a criminal so he can be a criminal. Old habits die hard though, and soon enough, Matt and Fisk find themselves drawn to their old personas once again. Well, not exactly soon, it takes a while to get there, more on that later. In case it wasn't clear, this is a soft reboot of the Netflix Daredevil show from back in the day. Born Again essentially wipes the slate clean, gets rid of several beloved supporting cast members, ditches memorable locations from the classic series, and has Matt basically abandon the Daredevil persona entirely for a few episodes. But hey, at least now the show is more fully integrated into the MCU. Yay? If you're not aware, Born Again would originally be a very different show. From what I gather, Dee would be in the yellow costume he wore in She-Hulk, the whole tone of the show would be much lighter, Foggy and Karen wouldn't even show up, and their absence would never be acknowledged. Yes, really. Shockingly, this first version was horribly received, and I'm not even talking about the fans here, I'm saying even the actors weren't down for it. Jon Bernthal, the actor who plays the Punisher, flat out refused to come back for the first version. Bernthal loves playing Frank Castle, so you gotta wonder just how bad those scripts were to turn him away entirely. In an exceedingly rare moment of sanity, however, the suits at Disney realized this version just wouldn't fly, and so they fired the original creative team and got the people who worked on the very solid Punisher TV show to try and salvage this show. So yeah, the new showrunners had an uphill battle ahead of them, to say the least. And I'd love to get over here and say they pulled off a miracle and Born Again is just as good as seasons 1 to 3 of the original Daredevil, but yeah, that's not gonna happen. I'll say it right now. Born Again, taken as a whole, is subpar. In general, but especially if compared to what came before it. And I can't tell you how much it sucks for me to be saying that, because there are great moments here. Sometimes the show has strong, meaningful cinematography. Other times it's boring point-and-shoot nonsense. Sometimes the show is a well-done courtroom drama / superhero noir story with engaging twists. Other times, Matt has to fight stereotypically Irish bank robbers with the help of Kamala Khan's dad. Oh, and while on the subject, I think that episode is a pretty good distillation of what Born Again is. Because it's obvious the original showrunners just did a dumb superhero bank robbery episode which referenced Kamala Khan, arguably the most astroturfed comic book character since Miles Morales, and then the new showrunners came in, saw the footage, thought, what the hell do we do with this thing? And did the best they could to make it feel like the original Daredevil. Which leads to this weird fucking episode that features Matt brutally cracking some guy's knee and struggling with his violent nature as Daredevil, but also, once again, features color-coded bank robbers about as Irish as the Lucky Charms mascot, a diamond that literally makes a glittering sound when it shows up, and a Kamala Khan Funko Pop. Do you see the problem yet? The whole Frankenstein's monster nature of the series means that it never really settles into a nice groove. The early sections of the season feel super slow, but the final 2 episodes fly by a bit too quickly. The plot lines and characters feel disjointed and aimless. Stuff gets introduced in the first episode, disappears for pretty much the entire rest of the season, then comes back for the final 2 episodes. And this might be considered a small spoiler, so beware, but if you were expecting a satisfying conclusion to the season, nope. The ending is just sequel bait for season 2, which is already being shot as I record this. The only consistently great things about the show are Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. Both actors deserve awards for the work they deliver here, because I genuinely could not tell you another time I thought two people carried a project so hard. Kudos to both of these guys, they deserve all the love they get, and I hope to God they get to play these characters in a season of television deserving of their talents. Born Again has strong moments throughout, pretty much every episode has them, but it's still easily the weakest installment in the entire Daredevil series. I'm tempted to call it weaker than the Ben Affleck movie. I'm dead serious, at least if we're comparing it to the director's cut of that movie. So yeah, it's 100% up to you if you want to watch the show or not. I get it either way. Though I do think binge watching the whole thing in one go might make the kind of boring early episodes easier to sit through, so there's that. Spoilers to follow, leave if you care. 3, 2, 1. Alright, starting with the positives. I like the sort of hate triangle thing they're doing with Daredevil, Kingpin, and Bullseye. Each of them gets a specific color symbolizing them, right? DD is red, Kingpin is white, Bullseye is blue. I appreciate the concept, and that episode 1 fight scene between Daredevil and Bullseye was pretty great. I also liked the whole subplot with White Tiger. The actor playing Hector did a great job, and may he rest in peace. Punisher is also great all around as usual. It's cool to see Frank kicking ass and cracking skulls, and they keep his antisocial and depressed behavior, which are a staple of the character. Him and Matt arguing like a married couple never gets old. It's also cool that they brought back Karen. If we can't get Foggy, it's at least nice to have 2/3 of that iconic trio back. On the Kingpin side of things, it's cool to see Fisk portrayed as basically this mythological creature. You can just see him barely managing to keep himself controlled throughout the season, but then his violent, monstrous nature comes out at points, and he has these great and terrible feats of strength, culminating with that sick kill on the commissioner guy. I did not expect them to go that far with the gore on that scene. Props to the production team, great effects, and great acting as well. The way Fisk afterwards just wipes the sweat from his face like it was nothing, chilling moment, played to perfection by D'Onofrio. People had a problem with him getting cheated on by Vanessa, and yeah, her character in general is pretty different from what she was in the first 3 seasons, but honestly, I don't really mind it all that much. I see what they were going for here. Vanessa was originally Fisk's escape from the Kingpin persona, right? She was apart from his criminal life and represented whatever innocence and humanity he still had left. But with Vanessa becoming now more than a willing participant in her husband's violence, it's clear that there is no such thing as a Wilson Fisk, the man. There is only Kingpin, the monster. God damn it, you see what I mean? Why can't the whole show be this good? Whatever. Michael Gandolfini as Daniel is also pretty good, by the way. I like the way he transitions from a kinda silly comic relief character to a full-blown villain and Kingpin's lackey. Finally, I like the way they handled the Punisher task force. As I said in one of the episode reviews, it makes sense to me that such an antisocial character like Frank Castle would dislike having fans, and I enjoyed how his rebuttal to the task force, the reason he refused to join them, wasn't because of some nonsense about politics or whatever. It's more of a personal issue of Frank's war and his mission statement coming from a place of grief and pain, and he feels like the task force doesn't respect that. Like they just co-opt his symbolism because they think it looks cool. I appreciate that they went that route with it. That said, it makes no sense to me that Kingpin, who is entirely against vigilantes, would employ a task force composed of people who worship a vigilante. You see it in the post-credits scene. Frank manages to break out because one of the guys just respects him so much that he can't help but shake his hand. It really is a big plot hole, one that I imagine was created by the hectic production. Moving on, it's cool that Bullseye is back, and his actor, Wilson Bethel, delivers as usual. But boy does he feel underused. Bullseye is such a great villain because he's basically a mix of Deadshot and the Joker, able to cause tremendous physical and psychological damage. When Fisk decided to shut off the city to catch him, I was kind of on Kingpin's side. Bullseye is not to be messed with. The guy can literally murder hundreds of people in a matter of hours. I really would have appreciated more scenes with Poindexter in prison. Maybe we just get to see him slowly but surely losing it, becoming more and more violent, just like Mads and Wilson. Because I mean, it's scary just how cold he can be while killing someone. It's just complete instinct, like he's an animal. He only thinks in terms of how he can kill someone, not if he should do it or not. Even Kingpin usually only murders people when overtaken by violent emotion, but Dex doesn't need that. All he needs is an opportunity. That's super cool, and I hope we see more of Bullseye in Season 2, because all we got in Season 1 was a taste. Another character who felt underused was Muse, who featured heavily on the trailers but ended up being kind of an afterthought in the season as a whole. He's just kind of there to motivate Matt to become Daredevil again and to make Heather Glenn side with Fisk. More time could have been spent with his therapy sessions, really delving into his psyche, but nope. As it is, he's just kind of a generic serial killer artist. The end. It's a shame. It just kind of feeds into what I was saying. The whole show doesn't really feel like a carefully crafted experience, but just as the best they could do given the circumstances. I want to close off with some thoughts about the upcoming Season 2. I hope it's better, and I have cause to believe it will be, since hopefully this time the show won't get drastically reworked halfway through. Karen is now back, and Daredevil and Kingpin are preparing to go into all-out war in the streets of New York. Kingpin apparently has plans to become an actual honest-to-God king, since they reveal that the port he's been trying to get funding for is not considered part of the United States. Meanwhile, Dee Dee is assembling a sort of resistance out of Josie's bar, and set photos from Season 2 already spoiled we're getting his black costume from the comics, complete with, finally, the Dee Dee logo on his chest. That is very cool and all, but it makes me wonder. That black costume is associated with a very specific storyline in the comics, Shadowland, and I think an adaptation of that storyline could make for a great season of television. Think about it. Daredevil and Kingpin start off fighting for New York, but eventually Kingpin gets the upper hand and all seems lost until Matt gets approached by none other than a resurrected Elektra and the ninjas from the Hand, who offer to help Daredevil win this war. Desperate, he takes their offer, but becomes more and more violent as time goes on, corrupted by the evil ninja magic of the Hand. So eventually, his allies such as Karen and the Punisher have to team up with Bullseye and Kingpin to put a stop to this madness before all of New York City is consumed. I don't know, man, it could be great, and I hope they do something similar to what I described, but honestly, at the end of the day, I just hope Season 2 is consistently good and I can recommend it without an asterisk. Daredevil Born Again had some pretty abysmal ratings, and honestly, I cannot blame the fans for it. I mean, okay, for one thing, it's hard to justify paying for 3 months of a streaming service just to catch one show as it's coming out, but on the other, Marvel's recent streak has been, to put it nicely, a disappointment. It's nice that the producers eventually came to their senses regarding this show, but it was far too late. I reviewed each episode as it came out on the community tab on my channel, and you can see it, man. I was hopeful at first, but the simple reality of the situation dawned on me eventually. I knew that if everything went right, Daredevil Born Again would still be a tough show to recommend. Remember the girl I was talking about earlier? I explained all that was going on with the show, and she just said, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's worth it. And honestly, it's hard to argue against that.